Hello and welcome to the In the Beginning podcast, where we bring story lovers wonderful tales written by independently published authors. It is our mission to help indie authors grow through dialogue created by the reviews and questions you leave, as well as bi-weekly unique topic segments. For our 23rd episode, we are bringing you the beginning of Stella Coulson's young adult indie read, Whitby After Dark, about a young woman who moves to the Gothic small town of Whitby, Yorkshire, and discovers a hidden world of vampires, shifters, and demons. Her precognitive visions of death lead her to become the target of a serial-killing demon. This In the Beginning is brought to you by Shirts by Sarah, your one-stop shop for all your specialized shirts needs. After the episode, please take a moment to stop by acnbooks.com/indie-beginning and leave a comment about what you just heard, or leave a question for the author to discuss during the interview segment next week. The topic will be the long and short of short-form fiction. And now, allow In the Beginning to introduce you to Stella Coulson and her tale, Whitby After Dark.
Whitby, England's capital of all Goths, and hopefully one place I won't, for once, be classified as weird. Weird me? Never. Okay, who on earth am I kidding? I thought I saw ghosts, for goodness sake. I constantly have dreams and daydreams of specific events happening that then happen just as I've pictured it. I creep myself out sometimes. As I lay in bed asleep, the visions happened again. It was the same one I had 3 nights previous. I see a dim-lit shore on the coastline. I hear a man's laughter. I see the girl again. The poor thing is terrified, her blue eyes wide, the fear filling every fiber of her. A dark figure reaches for her, brushes her face with his hand. "Please, don't. Not again," she pleaded. The girl trembled as he leaned in toward her. He laughed again. She then froze. It wasn't just her being still. Nothing about her moved. The girl was petrified and couldn't move at all. She had become a living statue. Couldn't move, couldn't plead, couldn't scream. The fear was so stale I could taste it. I felt sick with it. There was nothing I could do. This dream had happened before. I've already seen it happen. I couldn't stop it. I was helpless. The vision smacked into me again. I saw the man move his face nearer and nearer. I was now in her body. I felt what she felt, her helplessness and her memories of how he'd touched her every night, her pleading him no. He wouldn't stop. He'd never stop. I felt him touch her, my body, and unable to do anything about it. I was out the scene again. The poor girl was only about 12 years old. A child, innocent, till he took everything from her. Her mind was like a tidal wave of pain. It washed over me and the dark figure. "They will never believe you," he whispered. Her mind cried out. It was unbearable. It filled my every pore. It happened again. She dropped to the floor. She was dead. I awakened that morning with a jolt. My head was throbbing. It felt like the aftershock of being smacked on the head. The pain subsided. My face was wet with the sweat, and I noticed that my nose was bleeding. Ah, damn, not again. It couldn't be real, could it? I hope it was just a bad dream, some awful nightmare. I wiped my face and began to get ready. It's not real. It's just a dream. This was a new town, new home, new school, and new life. I yawned and opened my wardrobe. I put on my new school uniform, which was much more preppy than the last one. It consisted of a blazer with the Craven Hall crest of an owl, and Whitby Abbey, a green and black tartan skirt, and white shirt. Over it, I wore a new, black knee-length leather jacket, because when in doubt, always wear black. I slipped on my Doc Martens and laced them up. My stepfather, Adam, had moved here last week. My bedroom was still full of boxes I had yet to unpack, despite Mother's constant nagging. In all honesty, I was high anticipation of this being a brand new start for us. I hope for all that was past to remain so. Nervous about my first day at a new school would be an understatement. I was, as I could uncouthly put it, bricking it. I certainly didn't fit into any of my previous schools. I moved around a lot during my life due to Mum being a single parent, always going where the work was. And I was pretty much an outcast at the other 2 schools I had attended. Try to make an effort this time, Lenore. Adam had paid a lot of money for you to attend Craven Hall. So at least try not to piss people off on your first day, my mother preached. I was Mother's exact opposite. Laurie Branmore, formerly Lee, was in her time at school, A model student, athletic, popular, well-liked. I was obnoxious, over-serious, sarcastic, a spanner at socializing, and completely uncoordinated. I must have been an incredible disappointment to her. I rolled my eyes to her statement, as I often did. Don't roll your eyes at me, Missy. I don't want to have to visit any more teachers again for your attitude. I say this because I love you. You don't make things easy for yourself. I tried not to sigh at that. I will this time, Mum. And I meant it. Or tried to, at least. I loved Mum to bits, but we clashed more often than I cared to mention. I did ponder on many occasions if I was adopted or even swapped at birth. The likelihood of both of us extreme opposites being related was not computing. She was blonde, over average in height, and had an all-year tan, athletic medium build, and strong shoulders. I was petite but curvy, had red hair, and extremely pale porcelain complexion. Thankfully, I didn't ever suffer from acne. I always longed for my mother's height, to have that tall athletic stature. Despite both my parents being tall, I was stumpy in comparison. My biological father, I am told, was 6'2". Unfortunately, I had the misfortune of being premature at my birth, diagnosed with a stunted growth disorder, so I had to endure being the shortest person in my class by over a clear foot for the majority of my childhood. Despite many appointments to specialists, doctors, and receiving vitamins and growth hormones, I was still slightly too short and tortured for it throughout my childhood. Mercifully, thanks to hormones, I was at least not obviously small, as I once was. Hopefully, the students of my new school would have less to tease me about this time. I would remain quiet, study hard, and try not to piss anybody off. I kept reminding myself that I would not punch boys who made wanker comments. I would not make smart remarks at or debate with teachers inept teaching methods, at least not for the first week there. I hadn't even unpacked everything yet. Here goes, I told myself as I took a deep breath like my counselor said. Craven Hall was grand, Gothic, and looked more like a country manor than a private school. The windows were huge, tall, and filled with beautiful stained glass like in the church. The old stone walls were covered in ivy, and the grounds were impressive and manicured. I made my way to the large oak door where a teacher and a student greeted me. The teacher was Miss Jacobs. She was small, brown-haired, middle-aged, and had a kind face. "Hello, Lenore," smiled Miss Jacobs. "Welcome to Craven. I do hope you like it here. This is Drew Morgan. He'll be escorting you around school today." "Hi, Lenore. Pleased to meet you," Drew beamed. "Bet you're nervous, this being your first day and all. I promise we won't bite here. I was the new kid here once, so I know how it feels." "Tell me about it," I said. "I just hope no one thinks I'm too odd here." Drew smiled. "Let me show you around." I nodded and followed him. Drew was a little shorter than average for a boy. Medium build, dark-haired, shiny, brown, puppy dog eyes, a prominent fair crooked nose, like it had been broken, and Mediterranean olive complexion. He was dressed in a pair of cord jeans, sneakers, a very old-looking t-shirt with a millennial falcon on it. "Cool, where'd you get that?" indicating what looked like quite a collectible and original t-shirt from the 70s. "How did you come across it?" "From the 70s, right?" "Had it years. Dad gave it to me," he replied. "Sci-fi nerd, eh?" I smiled. He laughed and nodded. I smiled and said, "Me too." He led us down a large entranceway and showed me to each classroom, and I was very pleased to learn we got to study both art and performance art there. There was also the option to study music instead of performing arts, or music producing in sixth form college. There is also a gym too. Not that I have ever been to a gym in my life. Besides walking my dog Star and the Wii Fit, I've never been the athletic type. He led us to an area where I would spend a lot of my spare time, the library, and gosh, it was gorgeous. There were oak beams, endless shelves of books reaching twice my height, with novels ranging from antique hardback copies to the newest bestsellers list, study guides, and even graphic novels. We sat down upon the leather Chesterfield and looked through the graphic novels that had come in. Drew looked through Iron Man, X-Men, and A League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, while I looked through Neil Gaiman's Sandman series and a vampire hunter series called Anita Blake, which had been transferred from novel to comic book format. We found ourselves debating over which vampire slayer would win in a fight. Blade has to win this one. No offense, he's male, half vampire, immune to sunlight, has an arsenal of weapons, and he's wicked strong, he said, leaning back in his chair to make his point. Sorry, dear, I condescended. Out of the two of them, Buffy would kick a vampire's ass. She's superhuman, far more agile, has a witch, a werewolf, a watcher, and an ex-demon to help her. He hasn't got a prayer. Though Anita Blake could kick Buffy's blonde butt any day. She's also a slayer, plus a succubus. Pan Ware, not to mention is a necromancer, I explained. Yes, I'm a total geek. What of it? Hey, I like good babble. This was a good start. I had a friend already. At least there would be one person to talk to me there. Pity he was not in my class as he was on the 6th form. And I was 15 and just starting year 11. So I would have to go into my first class alone. I counted to 10 in my head and walked in. 24 pairs of eyes turned to me. Okay, no pressure, just smile and find a desk, then hide. Would you like to stand next to me and introduce yourself to the class? Mr. Zimmerman, the English teacher, smiled. Nope, I would rather turn into a bat. Leave me the heck alone. Ugh. Why is it teachers ask, would you like to? No teen ever wants to stand in front of strangers and be forced to talk about themselves. My heart was pounding. I took a breath and began. I'm Lenore Lee. I moved here with my mom and my stepdad over the summer from Bishop in County Durham. I love music and pretty much anything with loud guitars, reading, drama, and art. I quickly went to my seat and hoped to become invisible. Nope, that didn't work. Scary dreams, nosebleeds, no cool invisibility. I knew everyone there must have thought I was a complete freak. I sounded like an imbecile. I wondered if it would be simpler sometimes to pretend to be normal. No, I don't think I could keep it going for long. I was 15 going on 16 and hadn't even had a boyfriend. I was a freak. For goodness sake, kids my age had kids of their own in some cases. Most start dating at 12 or 13. What was wrong with me? I turned my attention back to the class. We were studying Jane Eyre, one of my top 10 favorite novels. At least I wouldn't have to worry about studying for this one. The boy next to me leaned over and whispered, I'm Kane Morgan, Drew's little brother. I saw you with him earlier. I smiled. So what music you into? Kane asked. Mostly rock or indie stuff. Evanescence, Green Day, Killers, Bauhaus, The Cure, Kings of Leon, David Bowie, Soundgarden. You? I asked Kane. Rock pop. Pink, Evanescence, Killers also, Scissors Sisters, My Chemical Romance, and anything from the Rocky Horror soundtrack. He grinned. I like this boy already. Anyone who likes Rocky Horror Picture Show has their head screwed on tight. Image-wise, the young lad was emo, and a little goth meets geek. He was skinny, wore glasses, almost as pale as I was, wore big army boots, and had his hair dyed cosmic blue. We chatted throughout the lesson, and I offered to give him my old school notes on Jane Eyre, which he happily accepted. I got the vibe he was probably gay. Not that he was effeminate or anything, just a hunch. Maybe it was the picture of a shirtless Taylor Lautner on his ringback folder that gave it away. Boy had taste. Found another kindred spirit there. Other lessons consisted of double math, history and art, yay. I didn't really want to go home. I was arguing a lot with Mom lately, plus I just didn't feel comfortable around her husband Adam anymore. He hadn't liked me at all as a person, yet always felt the need to walk in on me while I was having a shower. I'm going to insist, Mom, that he puts the locks back on the bathroom. I couldn't tell Mom about this sort of thing, though. How could I tell her any of it? I didn't want her to hate me. Was it any wonder I was having those nightmares? I waited outside for Mom to collect me and finally saw the car pull up. Oh no, it's him. I got in the car and hoped the roads were clear. Never could understand why'd he touch my thigh every time he changed gears. I would have sat in the back seat, but the seats were down, so I budged my legs as close to the door as possible, tempted to open the door and get out even though the car was moving. Home soon, home soon. Went back, I walked Star, got dinner, and took it straight to my room. Thanks for dinner, Mommy dearest, Mother yelled after me. I know it's rude, but I don't like being around Mom lately. All we did was argue now. I felt like I could never do anything right in her eyes, and honestly, I've given up trying. Roll on graduation. I'm getting the hell out of here. I slumped upon my bed, switched on the TV, and rubbed Star's belly. Least you love me, babes, I said, cuddling the furry little companion. I broke down and cried. Star licked my hand. Sometimes you didn't need anyone to say anything. I wiped my face with my sleeve and watched an old episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It was nighttime. I found myself waking again. This time, it wasn't a dream. A hand was fondling my breast. I felt sick. Not again. Stop it, I said, slapping away the man's hand. He ignored me and began to reach under the covers. I was seriously pissed off at that point. No, leave me alone. I promise I'll scream if you don't stop, I said as forcefully as I could. Star's head popped out from under the covers and growled at my stepfather. That dog isn't allowed on beds. What have I told you? He said angrily. He turned and left the room, quietly closing the door behind him. I quickly put a chair up against it. Not being able to sleep for the rest of the night, I put headphones on and watched TV till morning. I heard a knocking upon my chamber door. The door opened. It was Adam. Sorry about last night. I had a lot to drink, he insisted. I nodded my head and he left the doorway. I might have believed that if he had not used that piss-poor excuse already. What could I do? It was his house, in his name anyways. He signed the checks that paid for my school, and oh boy had he reminded me of that. I was bullied at my last school. I didn't want to go back. I hoped to somehow get into the halls at sixth form and finish my education. I wanted to be a teacher. I needed to stay in school. I could tell Mom. I wanted to tell Mom. I tried to once. I said her husband was a pervert. It quickly became an argument. She said I was lying and being malicious. I gave up, shaking. I rocked back and forth, hugging myself. I felt cold, useless, empty. Nothing. I was nothing. Why else would he treat me this way? I reached under my bed and found my razor blade. I pressed it against my skin and dragged it across my flesh. Each line I made spilled crimson. I watched the red pour down my arm like paint. It wasn't suicidal. The cuts were much too shallow for that. I'd had plenty of practice at it. It somehow stilled the pain inside and gave me some control. Of course, I always felt idiotic after I did it. My arms and thighs looked disgusting with nasty cuts. I'd have to cover them in the summer with makeup when it healed. Despite knowing how illogical it was, I would always return to it. I felt shame at being so damn weak whenever I looked down at my ugly scars. I did once try to commit suicide after an argument with Adam. I can't even remember what it was about. I had been 13, obnoxious, but he held me up against the wall and said, "Why don't you do the world a favor and just kill yourself? Your mother and I would be happy without you." So I did, or tried. You see, I failed even at that. I was useless. I searched the entire house for pills. When I got all I could find, there were painkillers from Mom when she had last in hospital. I swallowed them and everything I could find in the medicine cabinet. I went to my room and tried to sleep, hoping that I would never wake up. Mom found me laid on my bed, empty pill bottles scattered on the floor. I was taken to hospital. I didn't die. I failed. I laid in pain there for a week. To everyone, he was Adam Branmore, blue-eyed, thinning blonde hair, liked by most, respected businessman who was loved by his wife. No one saw his real face. I didn't for a long time. He met my mom when I was 9. They married when I was 12. He then started abusing me at 13. What was wrong with me that he felt so little of me to treat me this way? It was like I was not a real person, a thing. Maybe I was such an awful person, daughter, that I deserved to be treated as nothing. I wish people could know what he was really like. See the real face. He was one heck of an actor. He played the role of family man so perfectly. He acted like he possessed compassion. He used to do odd jobs for elderly neighbors, fixing leaky taps and putting up shelves. He even used to be nice to me. He was the nearest thing I'd ever had to a father. Mom loved him so much. If she knew, it'd break her heart. I put it all to the back of my mind and locked it. I was going to go to school, and for the first time, I was looking forward to it. My new pair of friends waited for me at the table at lunchtime. The brothers looked so different to each other. The younger was medium, slim and dark, the other tall, skinny and pale. Hey, I was nothing like my mother either. Genetics were weird. Did you hear that they're actually releasing a drink called True Blood? It's orange soda, but it has the exact same design as the bottle they used on True Blood, the TV show. Kane revealed. Dear Lord, laughed Drew, you really are the font of useless information. Better believe it, bro, grinned Kane. I was wondering if there are any jobs about. Out of school, I asked the boys. Ethan, our dad, needs help at the DVD store, replied Drew. I was surprised and pleased to learn that the Morgan boys' father owned a DVD and comic book store in town. Just like that, I'd already found a little job. It wasn't that cash was tight or anything. I just wanted to spend as much time away from home as possibly could. Also, it was a great way to spend time with new friends. We were joined at the table by 2 more Morgan siblings. The boys introduced us, Elizabeth, who was in year 10, and Tristan, the youngest brother, who was in year 7. Elizabeth was about Drew's height, fair-skinned, small-boned, petite, had long brown hair, and looked like a very down-to-earth girl next door. Tristan resembled Elizabeth. Have you guys seen the news? Elizabeth inquired. We all shook our heads or shrugged. Well, you know that weird story on the news last month about the girls who went missing in the South Shields? And the girl in Berwick, thought to be kidnapped and then found the last fortnight dead on the beach of heart failure? The boys nodded. She continued. Sorry to tell you guys this. Annie was found on the beach in Scarborough, dead. Kane raised an eyebrow and said, That's horrible. But what's the connection? Her eyes went wide. It was the same thing, heart failure. This creeped me out immensely. The dream about the beach, the girl who died, terrified so much that her heart... Blackout. I woke in the school sick bay, head dizzy, body heavy, and the Morgan siblings all with the same look of concern on their face. Drew was holding my hand like I'd fall if he let me go. I patted him on the hand. I'm okay, I said. You look so scared. You weren't moving at all. You had me worried there, girl. I smiled, though it hurt to. I was informed by the nurse, Miss Chappell, that I had minor cuts and bruises from collapsing against the edge of the table. The cut on my head was dry, but the cut on my lip was still bleeding a little. Drew was staring intently at my mouth. I felt rather unnerved by this. He reached out and brushed my lips with his hand, wiping off the remaining drops of blood. Jesus, Drew, grinned Kane. Put the girl down. She just fainted. Let her have some space. Drew shot a steely glare at Kane. The nurse checked my pulse and temperature. She assured them that I'd be fine. My body started to get some equilibrium back. I was advised by Miss Chappell to get plenty of rest and to relax. After school and a few hours' rest, I decided to go for a walk down by the sea. I held the empty lead at my shoes while Star galloped, running ahead and back and forth, making patterns of prints upon the shining moonlit sands, which were deliciously warm against my feet. It was so beautiful out here. The sky was full of stars resting upon velvet sky. The air was warm, and I felt blissfully cooled by the tide of graceful seashore. Star bolted ahead onto the pier. Star, I yelled after him. Get back here, you daft dog. He was usually a lot more obedient than this. I shrugged and followed him onto the pier. Star barked at something in the distance. I walked along the long pier and then saw what he was barking at. A young man held a young woman in his arms. Her head leaned to one side, her eyes empty and still. He was shadowed, but I saw that the figure was kissing the girl's neck. I looked closer, and no, he wasn't it. I moved closer and saw what it was. She was unmoving, a statue, while he sucked on her bleeding neck. I was cold with fear and yet moved closer, mesmerized. It was like a car crash. I just had to look. What I was seeing was so unreal. This macabre tableau rang alarm bells. The girl could not move away. She could not run. She was under this thing's spell. I knew I should run, but I couldn't allow myself to let another girl die, not if I could stop it. Get him, boy, I commanded Star. I heard the man scream as Star placed his jaw into the man's leg. I then saw the attacker's face in the moonlight. It was Drew. The horror of what I saw chilled me to the bone. Blood glistened on my friend's lips. He knelt down and whispered something I could not hear. Star then stopped attacking and lay down to sleep. What the hell did he do to my dog? Just how much of a chance did I have to live through the next few moments of my life? I turned and ran as fast as I could, heart thudding in my chest. I ran down the pier, running for my life. Something came in front of me and grabbed me. It was Drew. He held my arm still in front of him. He stared intently into my eyes. You will forget what you saw, Lenore, he said coolly. I was struggling to unlock myself from his grasp. I beat my fists against his chest. He was a lot stronger than he looked. "Kill me then," I screamed. "Goddamn vampire." I gripped a hold of his arms. I dug my nails in, making him, bleed. I then choked in horror as I saw the little moon-shaped wounds heal. "What the hell are you?" he whispered. Shouldn't that have been the other way around? That thing had the nerve to ask that of me? "Listen, Nosferatu, you better get your claws off me now, or I'm going to go Buffy on your undead ass." He laughed. "Lenore, I'm not that easy to kill, but feel free, dear. Stake me?" He picked up a pointed piece of wood from the ground and handed it to me. Much to his amazement, I plunged the stake into his chest. He did not go all dusty or crumple to the ground. He pulled the stake out of his heart and laughed. "Holy damn, that little cliché is a bust. So what else do I have? I was out of garlic. What could I... My necklace?" I pulled it off my neck and pressed it against his. His flesh sizzled beneath the glinting cross. He shrieked in pain. "Some clichés do hold true," I said, smirking. He shrieked as he grabbed the cross from my hand and threw it to the ground. "Not exactly," he said, touching the cross burn scar. "Crosses have no effect on us, but silver is another matter." Like werewolves, I thought. I sure had a bad taste in friends. I was socializing with a family of undead, the very creature I saw in my dreams, killing that poor girl. I'd looked into the monster's eyes. "You killed that girl, the one in my dream, nightmares. She was so scared and you murdered her, violated her mind and soul. You killed her. You killed Annie, that other girl too, and God knows how many others." I trembled as I said it. "I knew there was something different about you," he grinned. "You dream about things then. They happen, don't they? Do you know that I tasted the blood off your lips? I felt it, the energy, the power. How do you do it?" "No, I did not kill that girl or Annie or any others. At least not for a long time. I will not lie and say that I haven't killed or do not kill. But I swear, Lenore, that I am not the murderer," he insisted, holding my face gently with his hands. "Don't give me that. I saw you with the girl. If I hadn't come across you, you would have murdered her here and then," I said, pulling his hands away from my face. "It's not what you think," he said. "I'm not I am a monster, actually, but I'm not the monster you think I am. The girl Carrie is my girlfriend. Well, sort of. I've been seeing her for a month or two. I hypnotized her. I've done it many times before. She never remembers my biting her, and she is only left with marks that look like love bites when I'm done. I have no intentions of killing her or anyone else." My mouth was open. I knew he was really telling the truth. He was indeed a vampire, but not the monsters from my visions. I thought for years that I was just mad, that the dreams were fantasies, delusions. It truly dawned on me then. It was real. The visions were real. Something out there, empty and evil, was sucking the very life out of young girls. "Sorry," I said. He was surprised at that. "I didn't mean to attack you, but something out there is killing young girls who live on the coast. It sucks the life out of them till they are dead." "A vampire?" he asked. "No," I said, "not their blood, but their very essence. It sucks the life out of them. I have to stop him, Drew." "We will," he answered. We walked back to the pier. He whispered into his girlfriend's ear. She began to walk right past us, unblinking. He knelt down toward Star, who woke up and licked the vampire's hand. I had now seen it all. "No offense," I looked at Drew's Battlestar Galactica t-shirt and asked, "but aren't vampires supposed to be cool?" This was not the image movie showed. I always imagined vampires to be a cross between Vampire Lestat and the guy that you see on the cover of romance novels. Staring into his puppy dog eyes, I had been greatly misinformed. He was certainly no Tom Cruise, or even a Christopher Lee for that matter. The Lost Boys, the Morgan siblings, certainly weren't.
What is this world that Lenore has just discovered? Can she and Drew discover the truth of the serial killer? Whitby After Dark is available on Amazon. Are you enjoying Indie Beginning? Remember to subscribe to Indie Beginning on your favorite podcast platform. Please let us know what you are thinking of this program by leaving a review while you're there. Reviews are the best way to support your favorite podcasts. In fact, Indie Beginning will be sending one random reviewer a special gift for every 25 reviews until we hit 500 reviews. All you have to do is leave a review and tune in to hear if your name is called after each 25 milestone. Or you could screenshot your review and tag @IndieBeginning on Instagram with the hashtag IndieBeginningReview. Join us next week when we discuss short-form fiction with Stella Coulson. A special thanks to the people over at Shirts by Sarah. Remember to stop by shirtsbysarah.com for all your specialty shirts needs. This episode was read by Marie Kammerer Frankie and edited by myself. I am your host, Benjamin Frankie, asking everyone to read more books, be the best possible you, and to simply enjoy this wonderful life. Thanks for listening.